Josiah Broxton officially commits to Vandy and will wreak havoc at linebacker in Clark Lee's defense.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Today's episode, we dive into recruiting, and more recruiting. It's official visit season, and Vandy lands another commit. We just discussed how good of a fit Josiah Broxton would be in Clark Lee's defense on the last episode. He must have heard me. He committed, and now will fit nicely into the linebacker room. So yesterday's episode, I did an overview of his game and was talking about just how explosive of a linebacker he is, just what he brings to the table, play in and play out. He's a great sideline to sideline player, can run down outside zones, can run down things on the perimeter, also is physical enough and good enough instincts to fit things from A gap to B gap to C gap and then onto the perimeter. He's good at reading and reacting and things like that. So all of those skills, I think, will fit nicely just about anywhere. The main competition, I believe, was Missouri, if I had to guess. And it's a good thing we got him over them. So, like I said, 124 tackles, 18 for loss, 3 sacks while creating four forced fumbles is never anything to I guess downplay, because that fits into just about any defense. So I know that goes without saying, but fitting into Clark Lee's defense, I think this is probably, and he probably watched film, honestly. Hopefully he listens to the show. If he does, shout out to you, Josiah Broxton. But I think for the reasons that he fits into this to this scheme is Clark Lee does everything he can to try to free up his linebackers. Okay. And what that means is you see a lot of motion and a lot of movement in Clark Lee's defense. It's an odd front defense at its base or at its core. And the defensive linemen do a lot of moving in front of them. They slant gaps. They stunt. They do things to try to hold up these offensive linemen as much as they possibly can. And also the linebackers aren't straight downhill linebackers either. They're A to B to C. And they have, with all the movement, sometimes their gap responsibility does change. So for him, I think for players like that, and you'll see it kind of play out this year, I think, with the current guys we got, Langston Patterson, Prince Colley, and crew, they're going to be able to play more a scraping style of defense where you're not having to come downhill and meet people in the hole. You're actually being able to check A gap, check B gap, and pursue. Or if you're play side, you can read and react. And I think with all the movement, offensive linemen are going to be a little bit, I don't want to say a little bit more confused, because they'll figure it out and they'll make adjustments as well. But I think they will be a step or a half step slow getting up to the linebackers, which when you have athletic guys that can run, that's an advantage that Clark Lee's defense has, and it allows them to make plays, and it allows the defensive linemen to either make the play or they absorb blockers or they make it difficult for guards and tackles to get up on the linebackers. And so fitting into that scheme, the type of player you want is somebody that can run like that, sideline to sideline, and somebody that can cover a lot of ground, because your edge guys, your outside linebackers, your whatever different schemes call them different things, like Sam and Jack or Anchor and Bandit or whatever the terminology is. Those two outside guys that can be hybrid, like one of them is going to be somebody that can put their hand in the ground if they go to an even front, or it's going to be somebody that can stand up. So those guys are going to be asked to cover, have a lot of perimeter responsibility, and that in a lot of schemes, outside zones start to become more popular. So with that being said, you're going to see those guys be more C-gap extended responsibility, whereas you may need your inside linebacker to fill just inside leverage of that edge guy as he feathers out to take away any sort of bounce and force the runner to not be able to widen their run lane downhill. They will force them actually to go lateral. So if you have a good scraping linebacker, either your defensive end or outside linebacker, your edge player, either they're going to get up the field and kind of force things inside, where if you're playing A to B to C to scrape, you are going to be in good shape at stopping that, or they stretch it out and the linebacker scrapes in behind, takes care of the cutback, cleans up for the edge player who has slowed down the running back. Either way, the key element here is having a guy that can run. Now, I think the reason why he's not higher ranked is because he's 6 foot tall. And people, I guess, same with Zion Lawson. Like, he's 6'3". If he was 6'5", he'd probably be a 4-star and probably have a ton more offers. But I think people put a lot of emphasis on height, which if you can play, you can play, right? Now, some instances like tackles, you do want a taller, longer tackle with a longer wingspan. You do want that ideally, but sometimes there's not a when you're talking about edge guys, there's not a lot of difference in 6'3" and 6'5". When you're talking about inside linebackers, 6 foot to 6'2" is generally your range. I mean, yeah, you would like them to be able to sift through, but if they can run and make tackles with what Clark Lee does, I don't think he needs an exceptionally tall guy necessarily to be able to succeed at that position. He can have somebody that if you run really well and you can chase down outside zone and you can close down cutback lanes on jet sweeps or if you're the backside linebacker, if you can stop counters, reverses, cutbacks, and then ultimately scrape late and get over there and make the play, you're going to be in good shape. You're going to make a lot of plays. You're going to do a lot of great things. So it's a really good get for Clark Lee here. I don't think people necessarily realize just how important that inside linebacker position is, because that position is going to be the one that cleans up everything. They're going to make all the tackles in the run game theoretically. Now, if you get an absolute beast on the defensive line, especially at nose, that might change a little bit. You might see that guy make some plays like Jordan Davis did or Jalen Carter did for Georgia. Like, if you get a guy like that, maybe that theory changes a little bit. But nonetheless, you get guys that run really well, they're going to make plays. I mean, you look at some of the top linebackers around the league, they're all the same way. They run well sideline to sideline. They can they're physical enough. They're gonna knock you backwards when you get there, and it's gonna be outstanding. So I think you're in good excuse me. I think you're in good shape here with this. I think you're building really good quality depth, and I think you're getting a guy that can run athletically and fit really well into a scheme that moves defensive linemen around and that frees him up. He's going to make a lot of tackles, or if he can't, then that's going to be the determining factor of if this is a success or not, which I think it will be a success. So Josiah Broxton commits officially. Again, I think he kind of heard the show a little bit. He might have heard the show. He might have heard me saying how perfect he would be for Clark Lee's scheme, because I think he would be. I think he's going to wreak a lot of havoc in this scheme. Welcome to the program, Josiah Broxton. You're going to enjoy it here. Nashville's going to have some great NIL opportunities as well, and those NIL opportunities are going to be important. And I can't stress enough how important those NIL opportunities are going to be with these recruiting fights that Vandy's going to have on their hands, which that's even odd to say in that. So we're going to talk about that and get into detail with that next. All right. Did you know that Gametime makes getting NBA tickets, NBA Finals tickets, that is, even faster and easier? MLB tickets, Nashville Sounds tickets, whatever you want. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down closer you get to tip-off or the start of the event. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. So there is a lot of things out there available in the Gametime app. I think I'm going to go to this. I think I'm going to go to this Sounds game, and I think I'm going to, I think there's some good deals on that. I'm looking at the sections now for the Nashville Sounds when they come in to play the Bats. There are some really good $20 tickets in section 109 row G. Now, there's amazing deals down here that if I let them pick my seat, I'll get it for $14 off. This is what you get right there. You get a view. I get a panoramic view from the seat. Those are awesome seats. I think I'm going to buy them. So anyway, that's what I love the most, man. The views from the seat. You get a panoramic view in the app before you buy. So you also get all-in pricing, which shows you the total up front. There's no surprise at checkouts. Last-minute deals. I don't know about the last-minute deals because I'm not buying last-minute in that regard, but you do save up to 60% off buying last-minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Flash deals, you save even more with exclusive in-app deals and select seats ahead of the game or event. Like I said, the zone deals, if I let them choose the seats, if I choose the section and let them choose the seats, I get some discounts there too. And they had the lowest price guarantee where Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. The Gametime ticket coverage means your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. It's kind of that like safety blanket there. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Gametime, or any other tickets for that matter. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN and you have to turn your TV down all the time with all that shouting? It's annoying, isn't it? Well, look no further. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So talked about NIL, right? Talked about NIL, how important it was. We did a whole show about like just how the opportunities are out there. The potential is there. There's some things that are brewing within the city of Nashville that if Vandy decides they want to participate, they can. Looks like basketball is starting to participate a little bit with their NIL deals and all the transfers they've been able to get, which Mark Byington, shout out to him. He's done a phenomenal job putting together his roster on very short notice. He's got a lot of puzzle pieces, some dynamic things that he can do to win his positionless basketball. So if I'm Clark Lee, hopefully he took some notes, right? Because NIL is going to be way, way important. And I don't think Vandy has utilized NIL to its full potential. And they have a chance to now. They have a chance to because the administration from the president, chancellor on down have now seen what it looks like. And they've gotten a lot of portal commits. So they're actively trying to participate in something. So when you get a lot of portal commits, it means you are It means you are determined to now you're going to start doing things to help yourself be in a position to be successful in athletics. Because I think something over there may have clicked. I hope it clicked. I know Vandy fans, everyone listening to this show, hope it clicked, that it is possible for Vanderbilt to have great academics and great athletics. And you're going to need that, because that's, like, honestly, SEC football is the front door, is the front porch to your university. It's what everybody sees. They hear Vanderbilt football, and next thing you know, it's on the forefront of their mind. Now, obviously, the degree from Vanderbilt does carry a lot of weight, and it is very, very notable, and it is very much a great recruiting tool for students. But also, when students come to your university, they want to have that experience. They want to have a great experience. And that means having good athletics, having a good campus environment, and being in a city that gives you plenty of opportunities to network and have a good time, and again, network not only professionally, but socially. And Nashville checks those boxes. Vanderbilt checks the box of you're at a great academic institution. Now, part of that student experience is athletics. They want to have athletic programs that can make them proud. The Vandy boys, the Vandy baseball team has been really good. Minus this year was kind of disappointing, but still they were in regional play for the 18th consecutive season. So it's not all failure. Basketball was a little bit down, but now they've got some positive momentum with the change in coaching staff and rebuilding the roster. Now football's done a lot of the same thing with building a little bit of excitement. Now they've got to pay that off. Okay. And doing that, they're going to need support. They're going to need NIL support. And I think Vanderbilt, with all the connections in the city of Nashville and everything that Vanderbilt has at their disposal, they have a chance to really, really get involved with NIL. And so that's going to be priority number one. And these recruiting fights, that guys that are already committed, it's going to come down to that, right? Because there's two names that really kind of jump out to me, and that's and one of these is visiting. So now you really have a chance to get a commitment there with not a commitment there, but you get a chance for him to help you land other commitments. That's what I wanted to say right there. Letting him help you land other commits. So that is Austin Howard, and he's picked up Memphis, Minnesota, Liberty, and UNLV. And there's going to be others that jump in the boat too. I mean, being an outside linebacker at 6'3", 225, runs exceptionally well. You have him there on the edge. He's going to be a nice little target. So what Vanderbilt needs to do is now they need to be able to keep him, and I think they will. I think Austin Howard, with his latest post on X, I think he feels real at home at Vanderbilt, and I think he's going to actually be one of our lead recruiters with all these prospects. So he's not the one that I necessarily worry about, although Memphis is right in the backyard. Minnesota, also Big Ten school, slightly more successful lately than Vanderbilt, and also has some NIL opportunities that they could offer as well. Von Zale Hinton, also Minnesota, Ole Miss, Michigan State offers in the mix. He's a safety commit, and he's an athlete, really. He may play on the offensive side of the ball, but he is somebody that going to have to fight him off, man. Ole Miss especially. I don't know how serious that they're going to be in this game, but knowing what Lane Kiffin does and how he recruits and how that whole staff recruits, it's going to be a challenge. Michigan State, maybe not so much, but I think he's going to want to stay into the. I think he's going to stay in the SEC here. So I think Ole Miss is the biggest contender there. And then Carson Lawrence, he took an official visit with West Virginia, and he just picked up a Michigan offer, and I imagine he's going to visit there as well. So NIL is going to be important. What can NIL do? What opportunities can we do? I guess we'll find out here, because Carson Lawrence, I think, will be the toughest one to hold back, because he's going to, before it's all said and done, he's going to have his pick of schools. He's going to be able to go anywhere. Now that Michigan has jumped in on the table, that means probably Ohio State's going to jump in. You're going to see some more SEC schools jump in for him. Him being in Chattanooga at a boarding school, Macaulay. You're going to see a lot of SEC schools jump in on him. I wouldn't be surprised if Arkansas, Kentucky, Auburn jumping in on him. Maybe Florida would jump in on him. I think there's going to be some schools that try to get in the boat here, and those are going to be the schools that I worry about. Michigan is a really, really good program right now. Obviously, defending national champions. That's hard to compete with in that regard. But the great equalizer is, of course, NIL. And that's why it's important. That's why it's important for Vanderbilt to participate in NIL, because you give opportunities in a great up-and-coming booming city like Nashville. You give these players opportunities professionally to make connections, make a little bit of money, play football, and get this, get a degree while they're at it. These guys can be your best ambassadors. And that's why it's important. So we'll see kind of how it all plays out. And we'll probably have this discussion. We'll probably dive a little bit deeper into this discussion as well with NIL and how important it is within the realm of college sports. So be on the lookout. This is going to be interesting as we go down the list and see. But Austin Howard is visiting this weekend. He's going to try to convince some guys probably to jump in the boat. Who's next? Who is going to be the next commit? We'll talk about that next. All right, welcome back here. We got a few minutes left in the show. It is segment number 3 here on the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Thank you to the everydayers, especially for making all of this possible. I appreciate everything you guys do. If you want to make Locked On SEC your second listen, I'm not going to be mad at you. Chris Gordy does a really good job. And if you want to be well informed on things happening around the conference, that is the place to go. Or if you really want to be the most educated fan base in all of college football, make sure if you want to, you can check out the lineup of SEC, Locked On SEC podcasts like Locked On Auburn, Locked On Ole Miss, Locked On Georgia, Locked On Bama, all those shows. Be sure to check those out too. Those are some good shows. But of course, thank you for making this one your first listen every day. We represent Nashville. We're trying to take back over Nashville here. And I think with NIL opportunities, there's a possibility too. And Vandy has a really good opportunity at that. So, but who's the next commit? Okay. Who's next? I would say there's a list of 3 guys I think should be priority here. They were just on campus last week. And then there's one guy that's visiting in the future, which if I don't get to him today, he's visiting, I think, next weekend. So we will be able to see just how that one shakes out. But the first one I want to talk about is it comes at a position to where I think you're going to need to continue to build depth because I think you're going to lose 2 guys at this position, and you need to kind of shuffle some things around. But I think Gabe Fields from Central High School in St. Joseph, Missouri, he's a 6', 200-pound running back. And I think that's a position of need big time. And there's guys like that with his skill set that I think would be really, really good. He rushed for 1,265 yards and 21 touchdowns while catching 15 passes for 300 yards and 2 scores. He's a versatile running back. And with the new scheme, I think, in years past, Vandy would be looking at Is he good at running inside zone? Is he good downhill? Does he run with power? We don't really care if he can catch the ball out of the backfield. We're not really looking for that. That was kind of the old philosophy there. But with Tim Beck and his scheme, I think, with AJ Newberry, Cedric Alexander, those guys are versatile, right? And that's what they're looking for. That's what Coach Langford is looking for. Coach Muhammad Langford is looking for. He wants to have guys that are versatile, that can, they're not like, he doesn't necessarily have to be like an Austin Eckler, like he can line up at receiver in an empty set and go burn you, but he does have to be able to catch screens and things out of the backfield, run a few simple routes and things like that. And I think he's got to be able to run inside and outside, and be able to do a bunch of different things, because with power read that I think that they want to put in, they would love to put that in with Diego Pavia, and have that be a staple. They need a running back that can take the edge. And he's certainly somebody that can do so. So I'm very, very, very impressed with this one. I think, hearing some of the quotes, and VandySports.com does a phenomenal job of providing some of these recruiting updates as well. And they're on top of it with official visits. So I certainly appreciate that. But one of his quotes that he said is, "They run a lot of the same stuff my high school does, so it would be an easy transition." Pay attention to that statement, because that's probably the statement that you're going to go back on and say, that's why he chose Vanderbilt, right? That's why. And I think you're going to hear that and you're going to say, oh, well, that makes sense. That's why he chose him. So keep in mind there. So that's one. Okay. Gabe Fields from Missouri, goes to Central High School, and he's from St. Joseph, Missouri. 6 foot, 200 pounds. I like these 6-footers, right? 3-star kid out of Missouri. So that's going to be one. Another one you have to look at is Cameron Dixon. I talked about him a little bit on yesterday's show. He's somebody that Coach Bailey is going to be in on. He's very long, very explosive out of Corpus Christi. Somebody that you need if you're going to eventually start pushing the ball down the field, which I think once Pavia graduates, you're going to, the quarterbacks on the roster after Diego Pavia are a little bit more live armed. So you're going to start needing to build a room of people that can really do a good job of stretching the field vertically. And to me, his biggest comp is Jeremiah Dillon. He's very smooth running, 6'2", 175 pounds. Obviously, would need to put on a little bit of weight. It's a little bit on the lanky side, if I'm being nitpicky. But he had 69 catches and 1,100 yards and 16 touchdowns for Flower Bluff High School in Corpus Christi. Michigan State and Houston are the two main competitions, I think. Houston's going to be a tough one because that's kind of down there in that Houston area with Corpus Christi. Kind of has a chance to stay at home and play for a Power 5 school in Houston who plays in the Big 12. But if you want to play in the best conference in all the land, SEC is the place for you. So keep an eye on this one. I think it's going to come down to unless he starts picking up other offers, which is completely possible, it is going to be a Vandy-Houston battle. I think Michigan State will have a chance, but that might be all that they have is a slight chance. Sheldon Robinson was also visiting. Seemed like he had a good time. If you look at his Instagram posts that were reposted all over the place, he's got a lot of competition for him, though. He's from Virginia, 6'2", 185 pounds, probably going to be a safety. Virginia Tech is in on him pretty good, and Virginia. And staying in state will probably be the route he goes. But at the safety position, if you can get Sheldon Robinson, that's going to be a really, really good get there at 6'2", 185. and being productive too. 60 tackles, 3 for loss, 6 picks, and scoring actually 3 times on defense. So he's that type of safety, that big play potential type safety that Vanderbilt would need. That would be kind of like I don't want to say luxury pick, but I don't know if that's the right word, but that would be more of a, this is a flex your NIL muscles, flex the Nashville muscles, flex the other things that you have at the fingertips that go with playing safety in the SEC. Would be the only thing I think could give him a chance, but I think he stays in state. I think it'd be hard for him to leave, with Virginia Tech being, I guess, as good as they are. They're ranked right now. They're going to have a chance. The Vandy Virginia Tech game might just be the battleground for Sheldon Robinson's commitment. I don't know how big of a player Virginia is. They're probably kind of in a similar boat with Vanderbilt as far as how their season went, where their program is, and the type of degree you can get from that institution. But when you weigh the other things, Charlottesville is not Nashville. And the ACC is not the SEC. So if you're going to go to a program like that and be able to get a good degree, I think Vandy's a better option over Virginia. But that's just me. Might be a little bit biased. I don't know. Somebody with a Locked On Vandy podcast is a little bit biased towards Vandy. Who'd have thunk it? So anyway, but that's all we got for you today. Byron Nelson from Texas is a must get. We'll talk about that on a future episode because that is true for a lot of reasons. But we'll talk about that on a future episode. We're out of time here. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Happy Wednesday. And we'll see you back here. But until then, anchor down. And, of course, behave yourself, will you? Peace.